Well, thanks everybody for having me tonight. I'm really excited to share with you some tactics for getting through the summer and having a good plan for some cool things we can do with our kids. As Deb explained, my background is in advocacy. I have some graduate education in educational psychology and working with parents of kids with different kinds of disabilities. My son is 8 years old, almost 9, and he's also on the spectrum, and so we have a lot of experience in that area personally, and then a lot of my professional experiences in advocacy in different ways. So the reason I wanted to bring this topic tonight is that a lot of us don't know what to do this summer, right? We are dealing with a lot of change in the educational setting, and we have to figure out how to make this work for summertime. We've already done this for several weeks, and we have more weeks. And so the way that I came about this kind of at-home summer camp idea was working with my son, and every year he gets ESY services, and they do a camp for him, not just for him, but they do a camp. And after that camp is over, I've got several weeks of summer left, and I'm thinking, what do I do for the rest of the summer? He's not going out of the house, all of that. And obviously this year, that has made lots of shifts and changes in the camp setting and the offerings that are out there for the summertime. So hopefully together today we'll explore some ways that we can put together some camp plans for your own house and make it fun for your own kids and have something that you all can look forward to doing together. So I want to start with a couple of caveats. First, that your child does not have to have a specific level of ability to do any of this. They don't have to be verbal. However you communicate with your child and explore with your child is fine here. Secondly, this is supposed to be fun. So if it sounds like it's torture to you, don't do it. This is supposed to be something that you all enjoy as a mutual learning experience. So as you plan a camp thing for your house, it should not feel like torture. If it feels like torture, pull back, do less, it's okay. It's just a fun way to experiment. And as we talk through, I will tell you some of the stuff that we've done with our family in the past, and I've got my full set of plans for this summer too, and so I'll share a little bit about that. But the first idea is basically that you can do a themed summer camp in your own home. It's not very difficult to do. There are some ways to pull together some activities that are meaningful to your child and that will not be hard for you to carry off. And then secondly, this all works if you have a great schedule. So I want to start there about the importance of having a decent schedule and breaking up your day. For those of you who do have a great schedule, whether it's a visual schedule or just kind of an idea of what you want to do in the morning, middle of the day, and evening, you'll realize that a lot of times that's very calming for our kids because they know what to expect. I think the whole thing about this COVID crisis that we're all feeling is that we have no idea what to expect next. And when we can give our children a structured idea of what their day could look like and what to expect at different portions of the day, it makes it a lot easier to kind of riff on that and do some additional fun activities. So over time, we've done this schedule thing with our son in a lot of different ways. We used to just say, 9 o'clock we do this, 10 o'clock we do this. And in my own experience, a lot of that came from my son being medically complex. He was a child who came home from the hospital on a ventilator with a trach, had a feeding tube, which he still has. And so all of that stuff meant I needed to really regiment his care. And so at 8 o'clock, there's a feeding. At 9 o'clock, there's a respiratory treatment. Boom, boom, boom throughout my day. So a lot of what we do is based on having started with that kind of rigidity in our schedule as a necessity for his health. But we've been able to kind of loosen up the straps a little bit so we're not hour by hour anymore, but he still knows what to expect at different portions of his day. And you'll find that kids are always kind of grasping for that sense of solid ground beneath them, and that schedule can really be that solid ground. If it's not, then you have to be that solid ground at all times, and they're looking to you constantly for what do I do next, what do I do next. But once you establish a decent schedule for your day that just breaks it apart into little chunks, it makes this whole process a lot easier. So that's my first little note that I'd like to advocate for, is that if you don't have any type of schedule that your kids are on and it's kind of free flowing throughout the day, I think you would be amazed at how much structure it gives you, gives your child, and how much ease you feel in your day once you establish that basic kind of skeleton of what the day looks like. We use an app called iAllowance where there are certain things that you have to put in during the course of the day. We use a whiteboard, which is behind me. I'm creeping in my son's room right now and taking over for this. So I've got a big whiteboard behind me, and we use that to plan out his activities. So once you have that structure and your children kind of know, we wake up, we do these few things. At lunchtime, we do these few things. Then it's easy to slide in some cool activities in that schedule without throwing everything out of whack. So that's kind of the first thing that I'd like to make sure that you understand. A schedule is best. If you don't have one, I would say before you do anything else here, start with a schedule, even if that means morning, middle of the day, night. Very simple. But that will help you kind of establish the bones of your day where you can add in different activities and feel like you're not rushing to cram things. A lot of us still work best by schedules and work best by expectations, and our kids mostly do too. So I'll start with that. The next thing I would like to talk about is just kind of setting expectations. So our kids need to know what to expect in the course of our day, and you also can set expectations for what you'd like to do in the summertime. So when we think about what our kids might like to learn, that might be a good theme for our camp at home. And when I say that, I mean, like, if your kids are interested in music, then maybe you think about how we explore music as a summer camp theme. So the first thing we want to do is come up with that big bubble of, the main topic that we would like to cover. Over the years, we've covered things like music. We've done art camps for a week. We've done science, different types of social studies. We've done social skills. A lot of that was guided by what our son's interests were, and then we built on those interests to kind of build out activities. So our plan today is really going to be for a 1-week home camp. I think that's just kind of a small chunk we can look at. You can do that smaller or bigger than we start off describing right now, and then later you can add some layers to that. So like this year I'm doing a 10-week science camp with my son, but it's because I've got lots of years of experience doing the 1-week camps. And also I'm giving myself a little grace, so I'll plan 10 weeks worth of stuff, and if I don't get to all 10 weeks, I'll still do like 5, and it'll be great. And so I'm also not going to put a ton of pressure on myself to make this thing perfect. It's just to see how you can integrate some learning and some fun activities into the course of the summer and into the course of your day. So the first thing I'd like for you all to think about is what is your kid interested in? Even if it's, my son loves NASCAR, and so some of the stuff we plan is around his interest in NASCAR, and he loves to check the weather in every city in the world he can come up with every night. And so one of our weeks this year is focusing on weather. So if anyone would like to share in the chat box what theme you think your kid would be really interested in and latch on to, feel free. But yeah, I want you to think about what is your child interested in that you could dive deeper in. So I'll give you a couple seconds to mull that over, and then we're going to go a little bit deeper. So cartoon movies, I like that. Okay. Thanks, Selena. So far we've gotten to set a schedule and let's think about a theme. Does anybody have questions about coming up with a theme? I see bird watching, that's awesome. Just dance videos, okay, these are good ideas. Science theme, all right. So it sounds like a lot of us know what our kids are interested in already, and so I think it's a good opportunity to get their enthusiasm in diving deeper, and you can take that in lots of different directions. So if your kid's interested in NASCAR, you can learn about the cars, you can build a model car, you could learn the science of NASCAR cars and that type of thing. So there are a lot of different activities. Animals, weather, and 3D printing, that's cool. Drawing in Fortnite, yeah. So thank you for sharing all those. Those are great. And I encourage you to look through the chat box and see if anybody's come up with something that's kind of cool that you would also like to try in your own home. So we've got our schedule, we've got our theme, and then how do we actually build this out into a camp, right? So that's the hard part. Like, okay, my kid's interested in food. I like that. I might work with this one. So if our kid's interested in food, how do we build that out into a camp for our child? So the first thing I would say do is come up with 3 activities a day for the first 4 days. So this is my 5-day camp, 5 days. So day 1, we've got 3 activities. We're going to talk more about the activities. Day 2, 3 activities. Day 3, 3 activities. Day 4, 3 activities. And then day 5 is like your exhibition day. So it's the day that you decide to do whatever show you're going to do or journal or something to culminate that whole week. So when I say 3 activities a day, I try to make this really, really simple for myself. So my one activity is an indoor activity. So if we're exploring a subject on weather, we might do a tornado in a jar. It's an indoor activity. It takes 10 minutes, and it's something that explains something about weather. Then I like to do an outdoor activity. So if I'm talking about weather, we might go outside, observe the kinds of clouds, observe the temperature and the wind direction and the things that scientists need to know to learn more about weather. So that's my indoor and my outdoor. And then my last activity is always a video because I don't know everything and because YouTube is really, really helpful. So the third activity is usually a video activity where I will search whatever terms. And so I might search kids learn about weather or teach kids about weather. Find a good video. We watch the video together and we talk about it. So every day we have an indoor, an outdoor, and a video. The reason that I do this in such little simple chunks is that it folds into the other things that we're doing in the course of our day. So that indoor might be our morning activity, the outdoor might be our noontime activity, and then the video might be our evening activity. So it ends up being very simple, and I plan it out. So I've got 3 things to do a day. If I find a super long video about weather, then we might sit and watch a longer video about weather. But I'm trying to keep it nice and simple so that it doesn't feel overwhelming and so that we're still having a sense of learning and exploring and all of that as we do this. And also, I can use this as an opportunity to see, what does my child like? Do our indoor activities flop every time? Maybe they don't really work. Maybe I need to do something more hands-on. So just 3 things a day keeps it kind of simple, and everyone's not going to be a hit, right? So you find what works in that structure of 3 things a day. So indoor, outdoor, and video. Those are my 3. We also will add like books and things like that that I can check out from the library for free. And I also have a ton of books all the time in our house about different topics. And so if you can add reading to that at some point during the day, that's nice. If you cannot, the video will suffice. Turn on closed caption, you have reading. So a lot of what we do is just keeping a simple structure with the things he's interested in. A couple summers ago, Richie was really interested in different types of music. And so we ended up buying him like a little ukulele so he could play music. So that was our indoor activity. Our outdoor activity was going out and listening to sounds of nature and different types of listening and sounds, because that's related to how sound travels in music. And then our video was watching operas. And now Richie loves opera. It's his favorite kind of music. He has a favorite opera singer. He watches operas on video every night now. So we ended up actually opening that interest up a little bit broader for him. And he ended up coming away with new learnings because we just tried some new stuff during that week that we did music. So some of the themes that you thought about, like if you said food, maybe you want to experiment with cooking food and looking at food chemistry depending on the age of your child, and how does baking soda and vinegar and all that stuff work together in a recipe, or yeast. So you could do that as your indoor activity, might be baking cookies. Your outdoor activity could be letting something get heated up in the sun even, doing your egg on the skillet or something outside. So you're adding a different element of learning to something they're already interested in. And then your video could be, I don't know, watching a chef, watching Chopped, I'd like that, seeing something on TV that's related to food. So I try to break this down by 1 day at a time. Day 1, what do we want to cover on food? Day 2, what do we want to cover? So indoor, outdoor, video for each day. And again, some of this is just Google searching. I do a lot of sourcing on Pinterest, looking for different lesson plans that teachers have had in certain arenas. Particularly, my son is also interested in astrophysics and astronomy, so we've done a camp with space stuff before. And so I look on Pinterest and places like that for ideas for quick activities that we can do in our house. So if you think about it, you're planning 12 total activities for the course of that week. And then you, try to make sure some of them are outdoors so we're not sitting in the house all day. So those are kind of the bones of what you would do to create your own structure. Again, you might not get through 4 days the first time you try this. You might try some stuff and it doesn't work. Your kid might not like the video you chose. But all of it is room for discussion and learning still. So, why didn't you like making clay with your hands, and what didn't you like about it? And we can talk about all those things. And then that last day, I like as a day when he can show what he learned. So we've spent the whole week talking about music. What did you learn about music? What did you like that we did this week, and what did you not like? And even if your children are not verbal, I encourage you to use whatever ways you communicate with them. My son was not verbal until he was 4.5, so I kind of understand that world. And so he could tell me what he liked and didn't like pretty easily still, and I understood that. And so if you're able to have those kinds of communications on what they like and don't like, you can do that. And a lot of us have, solid ways of communicating with our kids that we understand. So that one-day exhibition then is, well, actually, before we go on to the one-day exhibition, I'd like to find out if there are questions about finding activities, and does it seem overwhelming to do 12? If it does, do 6. But if you have any questions about just finding activities related to your child's subject area or topic, feel free to share those. You can either share them in the chat box, or Deb, if you want to, or you can unmute yourself if you like to go on and ask those questions, I think. Oh, I like the virtual field trips, Dana. Thanks for sharing that.
Jamie, did you notice any questions for this part?
We don't have any questions as of yet. Let me see. No, we don't have any questions yet. And they are able to unmute themselves.
Okay, thank you. Mm-hmm. So really, we're talking about planning out your days. And so I just take a little grid: Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Friday is kind of a freebie day because you don't actually have to plan anything big for Friday. But you can decide then for that Friday, your one-day exhibition, what would you like to do? So if we've been studying dance all week, then maybe we do a certain type of Zoom concert with our family and do a dance recital. Or we do a concert with some new instrument like a kazoo that we learned to play throughout the course of the week. So that last day is really for your child and you to sit down and kind of combine and think about what you've learned and done that week, and find out what they learned and what they liked about it. Some kids like to video journal or even write a journal entry about that, and that's encouraged, and you can tie some of that stuff in with their academic goals as well. So if your child has a goal for social interaction and public speaking or something like that, you could tie the camp to what those goals are. In addition, if your child is working on something like reading comprehension, you can tie the camp into that and do reading materials. Let's see, affordable instruments. I see a question about that. I don't have any personal resources for that. My son uses a lot of adaptive stuff, so I have like a fake clarinet and a little tiny violin and things like that we've collected over the years. But also think about how you can make your instruments. You can line up your glasses of water with different levels of water in them and, do your little spoon xylophone across the glasses. You can make drums, anything like that. So there are lots of things that we can do for our own, or from our own kitchens and houses that we already have to be creative with this. You could make shakers and drums and all of those types of things. So any of those types of activities that you have, think about what you have at home already, what you could make. And so it's really kind of a creative scavenger hunt sometimes to find certain things around your house that will do so you don't have to go on a major shopping trip to carry this off. So yeah, I see the wooden spoons and pots and pans. They might drive you crazy, but 15 minutes in the morning and you're done for the day. So that's the other part of this, is to try to remember that it's for them to have fun. So as much as I don't love making like slime and all of that stuff because it's kind of messy, it's fun for this activity. We can put down a plastic bag on the floor or something, and accidents are okay here. So thinking about how to make this more of a fun activity than an academic activity is good, but that also doesn't mean you can't infuse some of the goals that your child has for school into this. So for my son, a lot of what his needs are revolve around reading comprehension. So if we're reading something about astrophysics, then we talk about it and break it down, and we think about that a little bit more, and look at videos about space, and some of those are longer videos, and we might pause them and talk about them. So it just gives us an opportunity to explore a subject more deeply that he might not have covered in school, or that he might be more interested in than the school curriculum really covers. So we've done also dinosaurs, things like that. So whatever your kid is interested in, I would say take that as your leaping point If there's an area where you want to integrate something academic, you might even look up like lesson plans involving dinosaurs, to look up some things like that that can feed into those 3 chunks you have to make in your day. And again, I would say if you feel like that's too much and you feel like I can handle a video, do this video. You know, I think so much we want to put pressure on ourselves as parents to do everything perfectly and just get this thing done. And the camp idea is ambitious. You know, there are days when it's going to work and there are days when it's not. I used to teach grammar to middle school students, and there were days when I came in and I would be able to teach common and proper nouns, and it went beautifully. And then the next day I try to teach prepositions, and everybody's got the giggles and nobody wants to listen. You know, the days are going to vary. Don't stress yourself about this. If it doesn't work out the first try, you can throw something in another time, or you can think about where else and how else to use these materials once you've gathered them. But I think the best thing that you can do as you start to prepare and think about it is just kind of make yourself a grid of 5 days. What would you do if you could do anything? What tools might you need? So kind of organizing your ideas around the theme and figuring out cool stuff that you could do. And you can ask your child to participate. You know, I'd love to do this camp with you and we can explore, you know, golfing, if your child's into golfing. So if we want to explore golfing, what kinds of things do you think we need to have in place to do that? And they can help you brainstorm and kind of figure out what they might like to do during the course of that week. So we've kind of covered the schedule that you need to have just to kind of make the chunks of your day easier. So you're not tossing, you don't want to toss a new activity into chaos, right? If you've got your whirling tornado, you don't want to throw like a ball pit's worth of balls in there. You want to make sure your day is kind of structured, so when you want to slide an activity in, it's kind of easy to do. And slide in a short activity, slide in a longer activity, the more structured your day is, the easier it is sometimes to slide in activities and swap things out. So I'm thinking, or I'm looking at, with the weather being better, exploring parks and yards. Absolutely, nature at no cost. So I'm encouraging outdoor activity because, you know, we all need it. That vitamin D will do us good. But also they get out and get to see a concept in space outside their house. So we're not just looking at music from a book or listening to music. We can go out and figure out ways that music is present in our world, you know. So it's just kind of a fun way to engage and explore. So you have your schedule, your theme, and then your activities, and then your exhibition. And so that exhibition, again, be creative about how you'd like to show people what you've done, how your child might best express themselves. So if you have a child who's a dancer, let them dance. If they're a singer, let them sing. But let them have something that they enjoy at the end of this process. And again, I want to stress that these are small activities, so we're talking 10 to 15 minutes. If it feels like it's something that's going to take an hour, maybe you want to do that on a weekend day, or maybe you want to pull that out altogether. I don't want you to feel stressed to be perfect here. I just want you to try something new. And you might find that you can build on that over the years, or maybe do 2 different weeks throughout the summer instead of 1. If your child takes well to that and likes that exploration. And it's also, I think, good one-on-one time sometimes with our kids when we are sitting down and doing an activity that we're both focused on. So ultimately, you can extend the activity and extend the camp by adding more days, by adding more activities if you like to, or by adding additional weeks of another theme. I mentioned earlier that we're doing science this summer. And so this year I planned 10 weeks with 10 different themes of science. So we're doing weather 1 week, we're doing geography, we're doing astronomy, we're doing biology and anatomy. So these are all in different weeks. And some of the things I have are apps that we can explore, like the human body. And so that's an app, that's one of our indoor activities for that week. And then when we talk about the human body, we may do something outdoors where we, you know, draw a shadow or something, or whatever it is that we come up with. So it doesn't all have to be super genius, and it doesn't all have to be super enriching, but just fun things on the theme. So again, once you get all that together and kind of organize your grid, you can plan what your days will look like, and you can extend or expand on this however you like to. Examples of outside music activity, good idea. So your pots and pans might be your outside music activity if you can't stand that one inside. You could listen to rain. You could listen to tires go by of cars or something like that. So I might find things like playing instruments or taking your drumstick and hitting a tree trunk versus hitting something else outdoors, so you're exploring sound. I see swimming, bike riding, listening to rock and roll tapes and videos. So that might be cool to introduce them to a new artist. My husband and I are constantly introducing Richie to different types of music. We have a very eclectic set of tastes in our house. And so, so it might just be, here's a new kind of music, or here's somebody who sang on the song with the guy you like, and let's listen to what the music is that they usually sing, or something like that. Let's see, wind chimes, I love that. And sidewalk chalk, absolutely. So if you're doing an art camp, you can do your art indoors, outdoors. That's another fun way to explore outdoors. So if anyone else has any ideas or specific situations that you'd like to talk about, I think this is a good time to get some more questions in about how you might create a camp, or what you think your challenges might be.
Really quick, Nikki, this is Jamie. We did have a question. If you have any suggestions for a year, I believe it was specifically 2.5 years of age, and then also one for older, specifically 12 years of age.
Okay, great. I think you could do easily both. I do think this translates to pretty much any age, because it just really depends on your child's own interest. So at 2.5, our outdoor exploration could be, you know, running and just doing things with our body. So what does exercise look like? Or how do we feed ourselves well and eat good things? So we can simplify that theme so that it's not like book learning necessarily, but what does a 2-year-old need to learn? Sometimes they need to learn their alphabet. Maybe you do an alphabet camp, right? And you find letters and shapes outside, or you chalk your driveway with different letters and have them run from one letter to another letter, or something like that. So there are lots of different ways that we can use some kind of things that we have around the house and explore them. So for 2.5, and I have been doing this stuff with Richie since he was really little. So we did music stuff then. We did things like triangles and beating on a desktop for music. We did explore like different, he liked Elmo at the time, and so we would listen to Elmo songs. And so I made it age relevant to him at that time, and then also relevant to the things that he needed to achieve as a 2-year-old. So Richie, his entire life, has always had a room filled with like academic stuff and things on his wall. And so sometimes it was just putting something new on the wall and us talking through what was new on the wall, whether it was sight words or things like that. And talking about a 12-year-old, it's a little harder to be cool, right? So one of the things you might want to do is involve that child in the planning. Hey, I want to do something that's related to art. What kinds of things do you think would be cool? There are virtual tours of art museums that they could do, and virtual tours of national parks and things like that. And so maybe find out what they're interested in learning a little bit more about. At the beginning of this whole COVID crisis, you know, we were all getting these things about what to do and how to handle your child being at home, all of that. And a couple of the things that really stood out for me are, one, finding what your child might be interested in learning more about. And for older kids, you can put them on a research project about that. Richie is very into NASCAR, and Joey Logano is his favorite driver. And so he had to do a little research project on Joey Logano and find out about the guy, since he's so interested in him. And so that's something you could do with an older child, is kind of send them off on their own learning excursions, teach them how to safe internet search, and help them search for things that they're interested about or interested in. And then also work with them to find activities like, you know, anything you can do a virtual tour of right now is awesome. So I think as the child gets older, it becomes less dependent on you to come up with everything, and you can share that, hopefully. If you cannot share that, then I would say think about what their deep interests are and where their academic goals meet their summer interests, and see if you can plan something that captures both of those. Any other questions right now?
I have a question, Nikki.
Sure.
How are you, you know, we have a lot of single parents who are also working at home right now. what are you finding when you're making this adjustment, how to make that adjustment and be thinking about how to make their child stay better?
Yes. Again, I'm going to go with schedules, first of all. Everybody knowing what to expect at every part of the day is very helpful in general. And if you are parenting and doing this thing by yourself, I think that maybe you plan less and maybe you give yourself a sense of what it would be like to do one activity per day instead of pressuring 3, right? I say start where you are and start with what seems reasonable for your life. And maybe you plan something that can be done while you're working. And maybe you plan other things that happen after your work hours so you can fit all that in if you'd like to. So ultimately, I don't want you to feel stressed that you just have to get this thing a certain way, but what works for your life. And my biggest advice is that whatever you do, if it doesn't work for everybody, then it doesn't work. So, I know families who stress themselves about getting to all the right therapies and going this place and that whenever, when they feel like they should and at a certain pace. And that ultimately puts so much stress on us that it's not good for us, and it then becomes unhealthy for the child to be dealing with that. So ultimately, if it's not good for everybody, it's not good. So if you would like to figure out a way to integrate that in a way that works for everybody, great. If it does not work for you, then try a different way. So try less activity and more talk maybe, or more exploration by video, and then we talk about it later, and maybe on the weekends we do a couple of big hands-on things. So I would say figure out some ways to shift it around so it works for you, but it shouldn't feel like big labor. It should kind of feel like, ooh, what are we going to do here? So if that's not the feeling you're getting, then back off and reset your expectations. And does anyone have any ideas or about what challenges you think you might face trying a camp or trying a schedule like that? And I see a couple of things in the chat here that having someone come over to just have someone different in the house, enjoying that undivided attention. That's really nice. And so, yeah, hopefully we're coming up with some of these quality moments. The second thing that I had seen when this whole COVID thing started was, how do you want your child to feel after all of this is over? And that has really stuck with me. I don't want my son to feel like it was a burden to teach him at home. It's not always easy, but I don't want him to have that feeling. I want him to feel like we spent family time and had some fun together. And so that's kind of part of my process is, how do we make this fun? This is not the summer he plans on. He was planning on playing adapted baseball and also going to his regular ESY summer camp, and none of that is happening. So how do I give him just a sense of we can have fun together as a family and without stressing myself out, right? So I think that balance has to be there, and you shouldn't go too far in either direction, really.
Nikki, would you like to do your board?
Yes. So my board is like everybody's favorite thing in my house. It's behind me. It's like a 7-foot by 4-foot whiteboard. So I'm going to walk my laptop over so you all can see the kind of stuff that we have on our board that kind of helps us organize our day. So here we've got, motivational posters. This is our regular to-do list. So every day there's reading. Every day there's schoolwork, there's exercise, activities, and usually he has to do 4 of them. He has certain apps that he does every day that are academic. His fish is named Wishy, and Wishy the fish he must eat. And then we actually have quiet time programmed into our day. And the other thing that we have, which I think is really helpful for my son, is having bigger goals. So what are his therapeutic goals? And I make sure those are in front of him at all times. There's Luciano Pavarotti, of course. But we have goals in general of his body, his mind, and then his career plans for the future, and the different things that we need to put together to make that happen. So every activity on his board is related to either his body, his mind, or his future. So I have like a ton of apps that he does. It looks like a lot, but some of them are 5 minutes a piece. Some of them are schoolwork, and then some of the stuff is just fun apps where, like, Tiny Bob, he gets to build robots and arcade games and things like that. So in our morning apps, that's 6 different apps. It takes maybe 35 to 40 minutes. A couple of them require my input and help. PM apps, a couple of them require my input, and the rest are kind of fun and exploration for him. And then throughout the day, we try to get to 4 different activities. So we might do a quick science video from the Great Lakes Science Center. He plays the piano on his app or another instrument. For my son, instruments help with his oral motor. So we're doing things like a recorder or a fake clarinet, all of those things. And then different types of things we can do throughout the day that are therapeutic in nature for him. So that's kind of our structure in our house. And then we can riff on that when we need to, because I can say, hey, today you don't have to do 2 of your morning apps. We're going to do this instead. So it allows me to have some flexibility because he knows what the expectation is in the first place. And since he knows the expectation, he knows that we can change it every now and then. I think that's fun for him. And he does have a sense of what he has to do in the course of a day. So he doesn't freak out about it. He likes most of those, well, he likes all of those apps. We have tricked him into thinking that the learning apps are like the only ones that exist, kind of. So, so I'm going to stay with that. Don't let your kids tell my kid that there are more fun apps out there. But a lot of what we do is just kind of structured so that learning is part of his day regularly. And it is some days more screen time than others. That's not something I'm going to stress about right now. So some days there's screen time, and oh well, and we will all survive that, right? So again, don't beat yourself up there. So I would say, but if you can create some structure in your day, then it gives the sense of expectation and allows some space for you to innovate. Any other questions now? I see the ideas people are sharing about cooking videos on YouTube. I love that. Apple picking, orchards, all of those things are great activities. So I really encourage you to start brainstorming what might work for your family. And what kinds of things are close to you that are open activities that you feel safe going to right now? My family, we are really locking down because my son is medically fragile, so we're not going a ton of places, but we're doing a lot of stuff outside in our backyard. So we're doing an organic garden this year, and that's just something that we're, doing a couple of vegetables. That'll be part of one of our weeks of plant life. That's one of our science topics. So we've planted some peas that are growing really poorly right now, but we've done a couple things to prep for that already. So he can see what happens when you don't take care of a plant very well. And we are also right now growing caterpillars into butterflies. So that's one of our early activities before the summer even begins. So by next week, which is the last week of school for him, we should be able to take these babies outside and release them. And so that's another kind of fun activity that we do pretty much every year. Does anybody else have any, I see gardening is a good camp week. Yeah, I think so. And if you think about the stuff you can do with gardening, you can measure off the area of a plot if your child is older and can do that type of measurement. So you're integrating math. You can label the little sticks that you put in your garden. So you're talking writing. So there are so many different things you can do creatively to add in a little bit of fun and learning with your summer. And if anybody else, oh yes, there's a picture of my board somewhere in there too. Yeah, it does change, and so we swap things out on that board, and I add new goals and new things we're going to do for the week. So my weekly theme, when I start doing my actual camps, will be on the board back there, and so he'll know what the thing is we're discovering that week. Any other questions or thoughts about how you could carry this out in your own home? Or, I'm hoping you think it's possible because it really is. I have a tight schedule. I work a lot and I do a lot of volunteer work and advocacy, and I can still fit some of this stuff in. Like I said, I planned 10 weeks worth of stuff this summer. I know that's ambitious, and if I do 8, I will feel like gold star. If I do 5, I'll still feel like gold star because that's 5 weeks of stuff I came up with. If I do 1 is fine too. It's just going to change. We're going to have a little change in our schedule that 1 week. So I think that whatever you can integrate that would be fun learning and just a new way of thinking about how we explore things with our kids makes it a lot more interesting for the summer and gives us something to do too. I see that Northeast Ohio, I'm also in Northeast Ohio, the camps are offering virtual camps. I think that's a great idea, yes. I'm hoping that my son's regular camp offers a virtual option too. We've been doing teletherapy and all this kind of stuff, and so for me, virtual is my current world, which is the reason we're keeping so tight around our house. But we're still doing some of these activities because I think it's something that we can integrate and make fun for him. I just really want him to leave this summer thinking, I didn't miss baseball because I had such a good time with my mom. He might not think that, but that's my goal. So at the end of the summer, we'll see how that goes. I'm not going to promise that he's going to love everything we do. But I also think that as we prepare for school coming back in and all of that, the more we can think about what works for our kids and what doesn't work by trialing different things at home, we can kind of see other ways to inform the people who are teaching our kids too. So if I know my child doesn't respond well to doing a worksheet about trees, which I pretty much already know, so I don't plan worksheets about trees. But I know that, and I can learn that and take that to my school team later and say, hey, worksheets are really not the best option, but over the summer we tried this, and this is what my child really responded well to. So it also perhaps gives us some more tools and some more trials on things that might work for our kid in a school setting too. All right, still looking in the questions.
Got a question.
If there are any more, I'd love to answer. Yes.
Okay, which one of us?
Dana has a question. She needs to be unmuted.
Okay, can you hear me? I'm actually Wendy. Yeah. Dana's my husband, but he registered for the class. Someone else asked this question in the chat too about I have a 13-year-old who's like super low functioning and a 16-year-old who's super high functioning. Somehow to like integrate activities for both of them. I don't know.
Yeah. I think that's a great question. Thank you for asking that. If you can find a theme that they would both like, bonus, right? If you can, then think of things that each one would enjoy. I would say don't do as many activities, but maybe find something you can all do together. A movie you can all watch together. A walk that you could go on and pick out certain kinds of flowers. That's another thing we've done is nature walks and safety walks and all of that. So I would say that it's tougher when you've got more than one kid to work with, certainly. That's a legitimate concern. And I would say that find the simplest thing to do that will meet both needs, or do fewer things so you're not doing those 3 activities a day for each child, but maybe find one thing that you can all do together. And because they're a little bit older, you might send them off to do internet searches about a topic, or if that doesn't work, then you might be, listening to music or whatever it is that their interests are. Maybe making dinner together or something like that is something you can turn into one of your themed activities, but maybe even integrate into what your family already does a lot. If you go on walks, figure out how to make those walks relevant to whatever topics they're interested in. And books can even help here too, because you can get books at each child's level and either read with them or read to them or have them read independently. So some of those are different ways that I might differentiate, but certainly it does make it harder when you have multiple children that you're trying to tailor a camp around. And maybe one kid gets 1 week and one kid gets a week the next month. And so you have a lot of space in between to think again, but you could not necessarily try to converge those together too.
Cool.
Was that helpful?
Yeah, I think my oldest is going to be easier because I can actually enroll him in online things, and he'll be totally into that. Like I already found this place that does Japanese folklore, because he's been taking Japanese and he's really into the culture. So I'm going to enroll him in that one, so he'll be a little bit easier, but it's the youngest that's really hard to get him interested in anything other than like his Disney movies and his room. Which is kind of convenient.
But how can we use Disney movies? So like that's where I would go.
Yeah, well, he loves, I know which characters he loves, so. All right, thank you.
And so maybe there's something like you make your own magic carpet by drawing it outside if your kid likes Aladdin, or experiments with ice melting and freezing for Frozen, you know. So some of it is taking what they're interested in and just doing something different with it. But yeah, I get the balance that you're trying to have. And so you can see how one kid can be easy to, you know, let them go and have an independent exploration, and the other one's going to be a lot more hands-on. Thanks for sharing your question.
You're welcome.
Any other questions or thoughts that you'd like to share?
Can you hear me? This is Tracy Nix in Cleveland, Ohio.
Yeah. Hi.
Hi.
I'm in Euclid.
Okay, hi. I just wanted to say that right now my son is here. He's 13, he'll be 14, and he's a twin. And he is nonverbal, but we travel extensive. We usually go on cruises a lot. So this is 1 year since the pandemic, we won't. But his thing is swimming. I have a trampoline in here. Now he will do some writing, and but his thing is really, he does everything like chores, like vacuum and everything, but he doesn't speak. But the thing is if he wants something, he'll say simple words like eat. He don't really talk at all in sentences, but he liked to swim. So he already saw that I had the new pool delivered here from Amazon. So he keep jumping on this box like, okay, when you gonna set it up? Because we set it up. So I already have activities, but I'm always concerned, you know, with the with some of my neighbors that say they have kids that's violent. He's not a violent kid, but he is very strong. And sometimes I ask him about like his iPad, if he want me to charge it up. And he'll listen sometimes, but I've been very firm with him. And I say, well, go charge it up. He always want to do things himself. And I think that's, you know, even with making coffee. And we'd be in the bed about 2 in the morning, we smell coffee. And it's grounds all over the place. So I'm trying to see, I have a coffee maker. And my husband just don't like him ruining the coffee because it's so expensive, you know, but it's like, you know, but then too, I don't know, I'm trying to kind of torn. Do I let him just get the coffee and just let him have his way, or try to teach him these things? Because some stuff, he just do too much. I just had a plumber, you know, actually to even flooding the toilet or something. You know, it's, you want to do certain things, but it's like, okay, we in a pandemic right now, some stuff we just gotta scale back on as well, you know, for cost efficiency and things of that nature.
I get that. Yeah, I would absolutely say that. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
I mean, but how do you tailor that? You want them to, but I mean, it's some of it is, it's a bit much. He's a sweet kid, I kid you not, and he knows that we do a lot, because I take him to the park to Edgewater and we go bike riding. But when we come home, I'm the first one asleep. He still just got energy for days. It's like, give me a break, really.
It sounds like you have good tools in place already. So you got your trampoline, you got your pool, that's great. And maybe creating some structure around his desire to make coffee. So today we're gonna learn how to make a latte. But one of our rules is we only make a latte when I'm here. So you can set some boundaries and give him an idea that, hey, in the morning, we're gonna make latte. So if you can stay asleep and not make coffee overnight, then maybe in the morning we can learn how to make some new coffee drink. So maybe you look up a couple different kinds of coffee that he can make if he's interested in using that kitchen equipment. And then maybe you branch that into different things he could learn to do in the kitchen, whether that's, you know, you could even teach life skills like washing dishes.
We had him to do a couple of dishes, and he get a little heavy-handed with the dish detergent, and it's like, you just have to have patience, because it's just like, wow, we definitely not going to do the wash machine. I'm so sorry, because I don't have the strength. I really don't. Everybody else, I have 3. He's a twin. Peyton, turn the music down. He loves music. Turn it down. Thank you. So he's happy. He's just a happy kid, but the energy level, my gosh. I mean, It's just unbelievable.
One of the things you might try is like some physical fitness stuff. So if he needs to burn off physical energy, and a lot of kids do,
I
then
got a
maybe your
bike,
camp is
a hula hoop in my house, and a treadmill in the
go.
dining room, and a trampoline. And he does all of them except for the hula hoop and the treadmill. He
Okay,
even
so maybe
done broke
find
the
other
top.
things like a jump rope.
You know, I do have a jump rope outside. I had to take him outside. That's the thing with him. He has a ton of energy, and he'll see me do yoga tapes. And I like when he see me do the tapes, because sometimes he get down here on the floor with me. But his siblings, that's his age, they don't want to really. I'm already 51. It's like, could y'all step in a little bit? This keep the energy level is unreal. But I just thank God that he's not abusive, you know, because I hear horror stories like that, and I don't know. He's going to be 14 June 2nd, and by God's grace, he's not like that, you know. But I'm very firm too. I'm not politically correct, because I will get with him, and he's taller than me now, and we'll go to. If I get a call from school because he don't want to put up the iPad, so I'll make it to his school, and he called himself hiding behind another teacher that may be 6'5". It's kind of funny because I'm only 5'3", but he know that I'm not playing with him.
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know what to do this summer. I mean, this summer I know we stand in the pool at home, because I even like the pool myself. But
yeah, I think you have great ideas already. So if physical energy is your need or your interest, like that other thing about the camp is it doesn't just have to be your child's interest. It can also be your goal. So if your goal is, I want him to work off some physical energy, then how do we do that in the course of a day? Do we run in place? Do we do push-ups? Do we learn how to do squats? Wear him out, you know? Give him the opportunity to get that energy out in the way that he needs it, and incorporate that into your camp structure. So maybe you're doing a body fitness camp, and that's how you incorporate all that stuff. So I think you're on the right track, definitely, and you know what his needs are. So since you know that, you can think about how to incorporate that into your day in a couple different segments, and maybe that morning, midday, and evening thing, if he has solid 15 minutes of exercise in those periods, it might keep him calmer and more regulated throughout the day too. So you might find that works for him.
Yeah, I'm gonna work on that part, and I'm gonna work on trying to figure out with this coffee thing, because he even this, if we go out to Starbucks, he's nonverbal, but he could say stuff like coffee. We know what he's saying when he say coffee, you know, and then I'll say it, reiterate it the right way, and he'll say it, but you know what he wants. He'll let you know. As a matter of fact, if you don't know, he take your hand and take you over there like you kind of slow, so I'm gonna show you what I'm talking about. But
So
he just don't speak in sentences. But and it's even funny with people if they look kind of. He have a sense. God gave a sense of humor with this, because I teach on special needs, but it's just they are just so unique in their own right. You know, like right now he looking at this video. He'll come over here because he see me talking to this phone, and he's seeing people, and he like this. You know, he's interested in things like this tech. Well, he's good on the computer himself.
Good. Well, thank you for sharing your ideas with us, and I think that's you're at a great place to start planning what might work for him. So thank you for your question.
I thank you too, because I see your maybe I wonder, is he nonverbal because of the fact I had given him structure for so long with how you take them to different places, but I guess if you're going to be nonverbal, as I noticed it at 18 months, I always am hopeful that he will speak one day, and that's just always the thing that I struggle with, you know.
Well, and this is an opportunity maybe for you to explore speech therapy and different ways that you could pull that out too. So there are lots of professionals who are available to work with you on that, and speech therapy is a great way. My son used an AAC device as he kind of kick-started his speech when he was 4, and that was really beneficial for him, but a therapist can give you different methods that might work for your child too. So I would say consider what professionals might help, and your pediatrician could probably give you a referral for speech therapy, so that you can look into that too.
We did since he was 18 months, and I just haven't happened. And he's been to ABA, he's been to a lot of different places, had Miss Bissaron studies with the neurologist. I guess some people are just nonverbal. I guess that's just what it is. Because I've done,
And that's okay too.
yeah. Okay, but I appreciate you too, because I always like Zoom workshops or anything that can help from experts such as yourself. So I'm always open. And I'm going to be quiet in case somebody else has something else to say. Thanks.
Thank you.
I wanted to share that I can't tell if I'm on or not.
Yes, you are.
Okay. I am a sibling to a man who was nonverbal all his life. His diagnosis was severe DD, autism. He was nonverbal, had major aggression issues. So, you know, my heart goes out to folks who are experiencing behaviors and the nonverbal part. I always say that my brother Rodney never spoke a day in his life, but his life still speaks volumes. So whether we talk or not, any behavior is always communication.
Yes.
But I wanted to let everybody know that now it's officially been an hour, and I'm going to capture all the chat information and we'll email them to you. You know, just
Really quick,
the different tips that were there.
we do have someone in the participants list raising their hand. Richard wanted to say something.
Hi, this is Richard and Richie. And Richie had a question. What was your question, Richie?
How can you do some activities for kids?
For older kids. Richie wanted to know what activities could you do for older kids?
Well, we talked about maybe having older kids do some independent research on their own too. So thank you for your question, Richie. My son and my husband are in the other room, obviously listening. So we have an audience here too.
I'd like to add that this is a great time, since we can't hang out with each other, that we can look at social skills, talking on the phone, how do we write an email, how do we write to people a letter, so things to help them prepare as they are directed towards adulthood. It's also a great time to be working on independent living skills.
Also, thank you everyone for the information. Could somebody make a copy, or did somebody make a copy of some of the apps that Nikki uses with her son?
I think there's a screenshot in the notes there, in the chat, of the apps that I use specifically. And some of those, I'm not saying that you need to use just those apps. That's what works for my child at his age and his level of development. But there are lots of great apps out there that you can kind of infuse into your day, and those are ones that work for us.
Hi, Deborah, real quick, you were mentioning about interaction and the kids interacting. One thing that we've learned with our kiddos in our group is we downloaded the Facebook Messenger Kids. Nikki, I don't know if Elijah has called you 1,000 times, but what I've learned from them, is that they're starting to love to communicate with each other through the Facebook Messenger Kids. I'm able to monitor it, so my phone rings first before Elijah's iPad. And some of the children / adults from our groups are nonverbal, but they get to see each other. And because they're used to seeing each other from our weekend meets and things like that, that's kind of like their way of interacting with one another. So Facebook Messenger apps for kids is a good way to communicate.
Yeah, one of the things I'm doing this summer is like a social skills kind of chat with a couple of different kids, and we're going to use Facebook Messenger for that.
Please make sure that you add Elijah because he loves it.
Yeah.
Okay.
I wanted to, since we're talking about online kind of things, tomorrow night we are having an online / gaming safety Zoom meeting at 7 tomorrow night. Jamie, who is actually working as our admin for this, she and her husband will be talking about the different applications and what to look for. Especially what I found interesting is gaming online, there are what they call loot boxes, and they can cost you a lot of money. So if you know anyone who's kids struggle. They like gaming online, but they don't know what certain things mean. It's great for parents or youth, adults with IDD. So I will type up everything that we talked about tonight and send it to you guys tomorrow morning so that if it interests you, you can just click on that link and join us. Well, Nikki, I thank you so much for your time. It's been wonderful. You know, my big take back is creating a schedule.
Yeah.
For a lot of people, just even think I can do 5 things today, but it's a start. And then the other take home, I'm getting my notes here, is going where your child's interests are. They're less likely to fight you on this. And, you know, my Sunday school class, you know, I have a young man who loves Legos. Well, you know, Jesus loves Legos too. So we just get Legos mixed into the lesson. And then you also said, consider maybe 3 activities a day, 1 indoor, 1 outdoor, and maybe a video, right?
Right.
And then looking for safe online applications that our students work with. I did post on there, and I hope it's the right link, but for YouTube Kids has an app. And a man who's a pastor I know had created a tutorial on how to set that up so that you have control over what your kids are watching. So that's just an FYI. And again, thank you, Nikki, so much for your time. It's a lot to take in. We have recorded this, so I'll be able to let you know what that link is. And, you know, maybe you'll end up doing this again, maybe at the end of summer. Like August, when everybody needs ideas.
Yeah.
And
Well,
Jennifer,
thank you for having me. I really appreciate all you do.
What was that?
I said, thank you for having me. I appreciate all
Absolutely.
you're doing and the education you're bringing to our parents and community. So thank you. And thank you, everybody who listened tonight. I hope you came away with some great ideas for how to start this process.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And as ASL, we all thank you with applause. All right. God bless you guys, and good night.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.